Okay, so today we're going to talk about comparing and ordering integers. This can be found in your textbook section 1, 2. So let's get started. First of all, something that is helpful in comparing integers is using a number line, such as this one. That can just help you visually see where the numbers lie. So first, what you need to do is find out where they are. So I'm going to use red for this one, just so we can see them. So I'm going to graph -9, and then I'm going to graph 8. So you see how 8 is to the right of -9, which makes 8 bigger than -9 or greater. Let's try this one. So you have 5 and -6. So I'm going to graph 5, and then I'm going to graph -6. And you see 5 is to the right of -6, which makes 5 greater than -6. Remember, the mouth opens towards the greater number. So just think about it this way. The distance right here is really, really small. The distance here is really, really big. So the smaller part points to the smaller number, and the bigger part points to the bigger number. At least that's how I remember that when I was little. Now, if you don't have a number line handy, let's compare these numbers. Just remember, something that's going to be very helpful to you is positive numbers are always greater than negative numbers. So if it's a negative number, you have a negative number and a positive number that you're trying to compare, negative number is automatically smaller, and positive number is automatically bigger. So let's deal with this mess here. So what happens when you get something like this going on? Well, if you remember from last lesson, just think about this as opposite. So opposite of -4. What is the opposite of -4? Well, just your plain regular 4, right? And I can just bring this 4 down right here. So which one is bigger? Neither one. They're equal. Now let's deal with this right here. So opposite of -3. Opposite of -3 is +3. Opposite of -5 is 5. And they're both positive. So now let's see. 5 is bigger than 3. We know that. So there we go. 3 is less than 5. So try to compare these on your own. Remember to deal with this mess right here before you compare them. Okay, let's see if you got these right. So I have -7 and I have 2. 2 is positive, -7 is negative. So 2 is automatically greater than 7, -7. For this one, I have to deal with this mess right here first. So opposite of the absolute value of -7. So absolute value of -7, remember absolute value is distance to 0. So it will just be 7 because distance cannot be negative. And I'm just going to bring this negative sign down so I get opposite of 7. Opposite of absolute value of -7 is opposite of 7. And here I have opposite of -7. Don't get your absolute value and your parentheses confused. So opposite of -7 is just +7. Now remember, negative number is always automatically smaller than a positive number. So there we go. Okay, now as far as ordering integers, we're going to order these from least to greatest. So we want the smaller ones first and the bigger ones after that. Now remember that negative numbers that appear bigger are actually smaller because they're further away from 0. So let me just give you a quick example here. -5 will actually be bigger than -2 because -5 is further away from 0 than -2 is. So even though 5 by itself would have been a bigger number than 2 because they're negative, 5 is actually smaller. All right, so let's see. What I like to do is after I use the number, I like to cross it off. So let's see, which one of these is furthest away from 0? Because that's going to be the smallest one. That should say the negative number that's furthest away from 0. So the negative number that's furthest away from 0 is negative 9. So I'm going to use that as my least number, and I'm just going to cross it out so I don't worry about it anymore. What is the next furthest away from 0 in the negative numbers? Well, it's the negative 3 right here, because negative 3 is further away than negative 2. And then it's negative 2. It's the last remaining negative number. Then I have 0, because 0 lies right between negatives and positives. So I already used up all of these. And then all I have left is 3 and 5. So we know that 3 is smaller than 5. So if you look at it, it almost looks like my negative numbers go from like 9 to 3 to 2. So they kind of get smaller at the first glance, but they're negative, so they're actually getting bigger. And then I have 0, and then 3, 5. We all know already how to deal with the positive numbers. So let's try this one. Here we need to take care of some messes. So negative 8 is good to go the way it is. How about absolute value of negative 4? Well, I'm just going to copy all these numbers over again. So absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. Opposite of absolute value of negative 6. So absolute value of negative 6 is 6, and the opposite of it is negative 6. Then choose good to go as it is, and then opposite of negative 7. Opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. Now, when I order them, I want to write them in their original form, the way they are right here, so not the way I cleaned them up. So what is, out of these numbers, which one of these is a negative number that's furthest away from 0? That would be negative 8. So that's my first number. That's the least number. Then a negative 8 is written the same way in both places. The next furthest away from 0, that's a negative number, is negative 6. Now, negative 6 was originally written as opposite of the absolute value of negative 6. So that's how one should write it down. Next, so I use this, and I use this. Next, I want to look for more negative numbers. I don't have any. I don't have a 0. So let's move to the positive numbers. So my smallest positive number is 2, and it appears the same way. After that, it's 4, but I originally had it as absolute value of negative 4, so that's how one should write it down. And then the last one that's left is 7, but I want to write it in its original form, which is opposite of negative 7. So try these on your own, and once you're finished, feel free to push play and check if you've done it right. Okay, so let's see. This one is pretty straightforward. No messes to clean up. So I want you to look for the negative number that's furthest away from 0. Is it negative 4 or is it negative 19? Well, 19 is further away from 0, so it's going to be negative 19 as my least number. So I use that up. So next, negative 4. I don't have any more negative numbers. I do have 0, however. And then I'm going to deal with my positive numbers. Which one is less, 22 or 12? So 12 and then 22. Let's look at this next one. Here we have one mess that we need to clean up. We have a negative absolute value of 5. So opposite of the absolute value of 5, absolute value of 5 is 5, and the opposite of it is negative 5. Then I have negative 6, 11, and 0. So what is negative number? Which of these two is the negative number that is furthest away from 0? That would be negative 6. The next after that is negative 5, but it was originally written as negative absolute value of 5. So that's how I want you to write it down. I don't have any more negative numbers. I have 0. And then I have 11, and I'm done. Don't forget to get this signed, and I will see you tomorrow in class.